our weekly chats interview edition, but we also have a weekly forums edition that's all about poker strategy. I'm Jim Reid, your host for both. I go by Bluffsterini in the home game and at RecPoker Jim on socials, and I have the best freaking job in the world, talking poker with my friends every Monday night on the RecPoker podcast at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. You can join us for free and win a prize just for showing up. Now, I am really excited. We're going to be talking to Kathy Liebert in just a moment. But first, I'm proud to share we're brought to you by Running Aces. They are the official sponsor of the RecPoker podcast. And most of what we do here is free. And all it takes to join our community is an email address and a smile, although we do insist on both. And since we're a largely volunteer-based organization, we really depend on the support from our sponsors and also from our premium members who take part in our advanced training materials and study opportunities for only $22 a month. Give us a try. You can get your first month of premium for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. But as you know, if you're a regular listener, we also love to support local food banks. So if you don't have $5, but if you want to donate of any amount to a local food bank and send us the receipt, we'll happily send you your first month of RecPoker Premium membership for free as a way of saying just thanks for helping out a fellow human. We all need a little help every once in a while. Now, they let me host the show on Mondays, but I'm only one man. It takes a group, a gang, a village, a crew to make all the magic happen around here. We call our leadership panel the RECing Crew. Of course we do, because we're a bunch of dorks. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the RECing Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew or just listen up. You're going to meet a few of them right here on the show tonight. We've got a packed house. We've got John Somsky, Joe Coolis, Rob Washam, Lorianne Persinger, and of course our invisible producer, Rob Gardner. I'm excited. We talked about Running Aces right off the top. They're our sponsor. They have been forever. This weekend is RecPoker weekend at Running Aces. So I've just spent this whole week getting packed, getting my gear together, not sleeping because I'm so excited about seeing all these fun, friendly people in person again. One of them is John Somsky. John, you didn't sell out like Rob Washam and move down to Arizona, so you're still a good local boy, and I get to hang out with you this weekend. I'm so much looking forward to it. What have you been up to?
I am very much looking forward to it as well. Currently, my wife is out of town right now, so I have been in sole charge of the puppy. And she has not yet learned how to stop barking all of the time when it's not appropriate. So you may hear some barks in the background, and I may or may not have to mute to get that going.
Okay, so you haven't had as much time to bone up on your like short stack shoving play. So what you're saying is that there's a chance for me to come and get some chips from you this weekend. That's what I'm hearing.
There's always a chance, although I think it's more likely that other people would get those chips than you.
That's probably fair. Rob Washam, you won't be around since I mentioned because you're a big sellout and now you live down in the South where it's warm all the time. Yep. How does that make you feel? How, you know?
I'm gonna miss it a lot because I was part of the first ever RecPoker day at Running Aces, and it was an amazing experience. Met a lot of great people, and I really wish I could get back up there for one of these, and hopefully one day I will. But in the meantime, I woke up this morning to a phenomena that I have not experienced in a long, long time. And it was raining. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was actually raining. I can't, And what is really weird is I live in Mojave County in Arizona, and there is snow warnings in my county, 5 to 7 inches. Of course, that's in the upper, in the higher elevations. I live down by the river, so it's not going to hit me.
Yeah. I'm generally a nice guy, but I love the idea of you getting a little dusting of snow down there.
No, we won't get any here.
Joe Coolis, you're on the Upper East side of the country like me. I don't know about you. It's been like 15 below. I've got 2 feet of snow out here. There's a polar vortex. The wind's howling. What's it like in Connecticut?
Cold. It's the middle of winter.
Could you be more specific?
It's running about 18 to 20. There was one point when it got a lot worse than that, but not for very long. I'm right on to the sound, so it oftentimes kind of holds the temperature, not into the temperatures that I was used to in my days of being a small cheesehead. So I'm kind of used to it.
I see you've got the very dapper thermal vest on, so you're taking no chances at all. Looking sharp, buddy, as ever.
Class the place up for some reason, and so I was like, okay, I'm not just worth it.
Looking good, brother. Lorianne, you're LA and LV. You've made a home out of that strip down there. What have you been getting up to, and what's on your plate this week?
Well, first on my plate this week, I will say that while I won't be in Minnesota with you guys, I will be there in spirit because it's about 60 degrees too cold there for me. So I will not be missing that. Like I said, the south end of the strip. I actually have had a fun poker weekend. I final tabled the Orleans Friday night tournament, took ninth out of 238. Thank you.
Sweet.
Saturday, Stone Bubble Resorts World. And then yesterday took third. So it's been a little fun weekend.
Very
But-
nice.
Thank you, gentlemen. But that aside, I, in keeping spirit and with the spirit of this podcast and who our host or our guest is today, I have a pop quiz question for you, gentlemen. And
All
you
right.
better get this right.
Oh,
Pop
boy.
quiz. Kathy is second on the Tennessee all-time money list. Who's first?
Ooh, good question. Who is
Is
first?
it Moneymaker? Is it Moneymaker?
I expect all of you gentlemen to get this question right.
Al
I
Gore?
don't know, Rob.
Is it
You
Al
tell me,
Gore?
is it? No, I can tell you it is not Al Gore. Rob?
It's not Texas Dolly. Us Canadians get our American geography confused, but even I know Tennessee and Texas aren't the same one, so I'm discounting him. Any other guesses?
I think, isn't Chris Moneymaker from Kentucky or
Yeah.
Tennessee or something like that? That would be my guess. It would be Chris Moneymaker. I
Does
think he
anyone
might be
wanna-
from Tennessee.
Anyone want to phone a friend?
I don't have
I'm
must be
phoning
Rob.
Rob.
I mean,
Does
I'm
anyone,
phoning Rob.
unless you guys have friends? No.
no.
Yes.
No, put us out of our misery. Is that it?
That is the correct answer. I can't believe only
Okay.
Rob got that right. Come on, guys. I threw you a softball here.
No, there you go. It was a
played
good one.
baseball and basketball and softball. So I missed that.
Good question though. I'm also surprised. And of course, we've got our invisible producer Rob Gardner in the booth. Rob, other than making nightmare peanut butter and jam fuel, what have you been getting up to? It's good to have you here, pal.
I am trying to get all my laces tied, my bags packed for what I hear is the most amazing weekend in poker history here, and the Running Aces Rec Poker Party. So I'm pumped.
You're gonna love it, man. I'm glad we get to spend a little more FaceTime together too. It doesn't happen often enough. That's what I like most about these trips. It's just like all these poker trips is like getting to meet people in person that you only know from online games, from Zooms like this, from chatting in the forums and on Discord with other Rec Poker members. Like even some of the core team here from Rec Poker, I've only met a few times in my life because we live in different countries. We don't all get to travel around very much and play. So pretty exciting. Meeting new people is one of the things that makes poker great. So speaking of meeting new people, how's that for a segue, gang? I could not be more excited. We've got Kathy Liebert on the show
Joe's not
tonight.
impressed.
Joe says you can do better.
Yeah.
Kathy, I think everyone who's listening probably knows who Kathy Liebert is. But just in case, I like to sort of set our guests up with a chance to paint themselves a picture. If people didn't know who you were, how would you define your own role in the poker world today?
I don't know. I've been playing a long time. I've probably been playing longer than most people, that's for sure. When I first started playing, there's very few women playing tournaments. Now there's so many more women that play. When I first started, there was maybe like 5 or 6 you could name of women tournament players, and now there's just so many more, and so many more successful women playing. So that's great.
Yeah, it's great to see. We've actually got some questions about that. I'll just remind our YouTube chatters, if you're enjoying the show, if you have any questions for Kathy, type them into the YouTube chat. And of course, stick around till the end, because just like at the end of every episode, we're going to benefit a local food bank by giving away a fantastic raffle prize that's free to enter. So just stick around till the end of the show, and you'll get a chance to participate in that as well and get those questions in. For Kathy. We got a bunch of questions actually. Lorianne, why don't we start with you? You can get the ball rolling here.
Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
To get the ball rolling, It's one, congrats on having a Wikipedia page. So I was able to look you up, which is really cool. But I saw in there it says you started as a prop player in Colorado. Can you enlighten us on what that was like and how you got started doing that? Just basically the whole scoop on that.
Yeah, when I first moved to Colorado, I learned that they had poker rooms, and I started going up to play poker. There was $5 maximum bet, 1 to 5, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to play poker. And they offered prop jobs paying $10 an hour, and I thought it'd be a good way to learn poker. Although what I learned is that most people that took the job didn't wind up keeping the job very long because you played with your own money, so you wound up losing your money, and most of them went broke. And I didn't really know a lot about poker, to be honest. It was just sort of trying it out. And they made you play whatever game they wanted you to play. So if you were in a good game and there was somebody that wanted to play it, they'd take you out and they'd make you play a different game or with a couple other people or a shorthanded game. So I guess you got a lot of experience playing all different types of games and all different kinds of situations and shorthanded. So I guess it was a good learning experience for that.
That's good because you did answer one of my other questions that I've always been curious about with prop players, whether or not they play with their own money or they play on house money. So I did not know that. Or does it vary?
Yeah, there's two things. There's props which play with their own money, and then there's something called a shill which plays on the house money. But the casinos always hired props because most people lose, and if they had a shill in the game, it was just somebody supposed to play really tight just to fill the seat, whereas a prop could play any way they wanted, basically, just to you're just another player. Although they didn't let you check raise. That was one of the rules, which was not very good. It was not really a very good deal. You did have to learn how to play or go bust, but it was not a very good deal because every time you checked, they figured you didn't have anything because you weren't supposed to check raise.
Now, that's crazy, but two, did that position come with any type of compensation and benefits that were included with that? Or
it actually wasn't a very good job. It paid like $10 an hour, and you were playing $5 max bet, so you're risking a lot more than what you could make for the hourly. But it was an experience to learn how to play the games, and you either had to learn to play or go broke. So it was not a great job actually, but it did give me a lot of experience playing. So
well, that's good. How long did you do that for?
I'm not sure exactly. I did it for quite a while, and then I wound up going home for Christmas vacation. They wanted me to come back early, and I said no. So that was the end of that job.
Oh, well, thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
All right, John.
So you mentioned that you've been playing for a while. What are some of the biggest changes in the poker community since you first became a poker player? And what are some of the things that are better or worse today than when you began?
Well, there was no computer software. There was no GTO charts. There was none of that when I first started playing. Most people that played by, just by learning by playing. There were a couple poker books, I guess, at the time. I actually bought a book on tournament poker before I went out and played my first tournament in 1994. But there was not very much available in terms of study materials or anything like that. So, you pretty much just, learned by playing, and it was a lot different then. People were not playing in a way that, I think players were actually much tighter than they are today, much more predictable and tighter in general.
And what was the book? Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, there was a book called Tournament Tips from the Pros. It was by Shane Smith, but it actually, she made up the name. It was actually Dana Smith. And it was tips from people like Tom McAvoy, who at the time he was the 1983 world champion. I guess he had just started writing and collaborating with her on this book.
Cool. Nice.
His first book ever.
That's really cool. So we were talking about sort of how the poker world has evolved over the years, and there seems to be kind of a growing emphasis these days on being a more welcoming place, making newer players feel more comfortable. Was that the case before? When you were getting started in the game, did it feel like a welcoming place for new players?
I don't think it was as welcoming in general for women. I think that there tended to be some guys that would be kind of obnoxious, or what are you doing here, kind of thing. I mean, it's some people were friendly, obviously, but I don't think it was. It was the smaller tournaments in general were pretty casual and fun, but I would say that it wasn't super welcoming to new players in general. I don't feel.
And as you've been a big player in the industry for years now. I think you've seen different poker rooms and different elements of the poker world try and become more welcoming or more inclusive. Have you noticed sort of like what techniques or what strategies have been effective in that way, and which ones have not?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think that if you're playing a small buy-in tournament, in general, people are friendly and nice and there to have fun. And the higher you go up, I feel like more people are more serious, and talking and being friendly and having fun is not really encouraged in the bigger buy-ins. I feel like it's much more serious today than what I remember when I first started playing. But I guess it just depends. But that does feel like it's more serious these days and more competitive, than in the old days. I mean, being welcoming is just being friendly and nice and and enjoying being there to have just to have a conversation or whatever. Whereas I think a lot of the bigger tournaments, a lot of the younger kids and the GTO kids are much more serious and competitive, and they don't want to talk or anything like that. They just want to play the game. So it depends, though. I mean, obviously it depends.
And is there anything from like the pre-Moneymaker era? Because I think that was kind of like a pivot point for the industry in a lot of ways. Is there anything from the pre-Moneymaker era that you miss or that you wish we kind of still had in the poker world today?
Wow. Yeah, I wish that. I mean, I liked it better before everybody thought there was a right way to play and a wrong way to play, and that before the GTO stuff, and it just seems like it's a lot more. People feel like you have to study this and you have to know that, and and do it a certain way. Whereas in the old days, people just played the way they wanted to play. It was much more. I'm not really a big fan of the new style and the new. Everyone has to study for hours and learn all the charts and study this and that spot, and it just feels like it's not real poker anymore. And in terms of just playing the game, just going with your gut.
So
yeah.
What is real poker then for you? What is the concept of real poker?
I mean, just going and playing and just playing the way you feel like playing, not feeling, it just seems like a lot of these newer players feel like, there's only one way to play, or you're supposed to play this way or that way. Or if you don't play GTO, you're not playing correctly, that kind of thing, that kind of attitude. Whereas, you didn't used to have that. It was more just, everyone just played, some people were aggressive, some people were tight, but it was not like this is the way you play and you have to learn this style in order to play right. It was much more, everyone had their own thing, and it wasn't really people didn't look down at you for playing differently than everybody else was playing, which it seems like now, if you don't play a certain way, they think that you're, not good or don't know what you're doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. So I'll just remind again our YouTube audience, we've got our first question from YouTube. So please do get your questions in there. Also, if you want to support what we're doing here, we share a portion of all our donations that we get through YouTube with a local food bank. So whether that's a super chat or a super comment or a super sticky, please do help us out. And if you go to rec.poker/support, you can find some other ways to help us out without spending $1. And also to support some charities that we all also enjoy and help to support ourselves. And so that's one other way, helping us out as a premium member or joining our Patreon. You can get some fantastic, great audio files of a lot of our training videos on our Patreon page. So please do go check that out. So our first question from the YouTube chat is from Benny the Jet. And he wants, this is actually from Type Login. He wants to know, what's your favorite poker variant and why?
When I first started playing, I played a lot of mixed games, but over the years, I mostly just play no limit hold'em these days. I don't play any limit games anymore, just because there's so much. I just like no limit better, and there's so many more no limit tournaments, and they tend to be bigger and more value. So no limit hold'em. I do like some of the other games still, but I just rarely play them. I used to play a little bit of Pilo 8 or better, and that was kind of fun, but not mostly no limit these days.
Lorianne?
Back on me. Hi again, Kathy. Just to point out, I noticed you were the first woman to win $1 million in a poker tournament. You have 6 WPT final tables, a WSOP bracelet. You're in the Women's Poker Hall of Fame. How do you decide what counts as success for yourself in the poker world, and what are your remaining poker and even life goals at this point in your life?
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess success is an individual thing. Just being a winning player at this point, I would say, is successful. I don't play as many tournaments. I don't play as much as I used to. I used to travel all around the world playing a lot of tournaments, and now I don't tend to travel that much. I stay mostly in Vegas, and I just play when I feel like it. So, to be still competitive at this point, I feel is successful. But I don't aspire to travel the world and play all the big tournaments like I used to anymore.
And one other question, what are your thoughts on the Poker Hall of Fame's their current policy of only admitting one, maybe two new members each year?
Yeah, it's only one a year, and there's so many qualified players that really you can't fit everybody in with just one a year. There really should be more, and there's more and more players that are getting to that age where they're qualified, where they're reaching 40. So there's no way that a lot of the good old time players are going to get in, and even a lot of the younger, more successful players of today are not going to get in. So really, it should be more than one, and it's very tough to get in regardless. But I mean, it's almost impossible with only one a year. It's just so selective.
And I'm kind of curious, are there people that you feel like should be in but aren't so far? Like who are like two or three or four people that you feel like are kind of like slam dunks, but for whatever reason they haven't been able to break that logjam?
I mean, there's quite a few that have had the records that deserve to be in. I probably can't name them all. I mean, Michael Mizrachi is one. He won the WPT championship. He won the WSOP championship, the 50K horse, I think 2 or 3 times. He's won WPTs several times. So Michael Mizrachi is one that comes to mind. Ted Forrest was one of the OGs, a great player. Definitely deserves to be in. Vanessa Selbst, I think she's turning 40 soon. Nick Schulman is turning 40 soon. Jeremy Osmus. A lot of these high-stake crushers. There's just so many. There's Scott Seiver. There's just so many that have had a lot of success and really do very well that, it's hard to pick just one. But of the old timers, I think Mizrachi, both Mizrachis, both Rob and Michael deserve to be in.
Yeah, that's great. Those are some great names. There's no doubt about it. Now, you're saying you don't travel around as much and play as much as you used to, but I know you still love the big series when they come to Las Vegas. I feel like the WSOP has been the flagship event for a long time, but the WPT is kind of making a charge on coming up in people's bucket lists. What are your thoughts? Do you have a preference for the WSOP or the World Poker Tour? Which do you prefer to play? Which ones do you think are better run between the two of them?
Wow, I like them both. WPT in general has better, slower structures, I think. I mean, except for the WSOP main event, which has the best structure of any tournament. But in general, the WPT 10Ks have a slow structure, and the WSOP regular preliminary events tend to be a little bit faster and more luck involved. They're both great. I used to love the WPT, traveling all over the place and playing them. There's not as many now that are local and easy to play for me. But I think that they're both very prestigious. But I think the WSOP in general is a faster structure, probably generally an easier field.
Mm. And for someone who's played in a lot of those fields and different venues and different tours and that kind of thing, what do you think makes for an attractive poker tour and a poker series? Like if someone were to say, oh yeah, the WSOP, they're really doing it right. They're doing a great job with what they're doing. Like what are the kind of factors that you consider when you're deciding where to play or when to play? Like what makes a successful tour or a successful series like that stand out to you?
Wow, I mean Florida, the SHPRO, it's called the Seminole Hard Rock Poker Open. They have really good tournaments there, and they're well run. But in general, for me these days, I prefer to stay close to home. I don't like to travel a lot, so I like to be in Vegas. The Wynn obviously has great tournaments there. And the WSOP obviously is the big prize pools and huge fields, which is great. Although I do think in general the win in WPT is better run than the WSOP, just because the WSOP is so huge. They lock you out, and the breaks is always really crowded in the hallways and everything like that. So it's kind of it's kind of more of a madhouse and kind of more jam packed at the WSOP. But they're obviously great tournaments.
Nice. So we did say we'd get into a couple sort of strategy related questions, at least some on the felt questions. So this is one I like to ask our guests. We cater to a recreational audience here, and so what are some of the actions that you can see people make at the table that demonstrate to you that they're newer or less experienced players? What are the kind of things that people do at the table where you're like, aha, here's someone that isn't that advanced in their poker training?
I think generally the newer players or less experienced players, they look a little more uncertain sometimes when they're making actions, or sometimes they look a little bit. I think sometimes they look a little bit more unsure of what to do and that kind of thing, and that can be information. When they look uncertain. I sometimes look uncertain, but I think in general the more experienced players they tend to kind of. They take a little bit of time on every decision, but they don't really kind of give away their hand by showing uncertainty or that kind of thing. They kind of take their time, but they don't. They seem a little bit more like they're thinking it through rather than not really sure, kind of thing. What have you noticed with newer players?
Well, I think sort of open limping, often indicates that they're, still kind of trying to see flops and like make hands and get paid. I think like sizing, when you see like unusually small raises or unusually large bets, or, people that aren't factoring in the size of the pot. Those are a couple for me, or honestly, even just, like I played a lot online before I really got into playing live, and my chip mechanics were very poor. Just like honestly, just how to handle chips. I still don't know. I don't shuffle the chips and that kind of stuff. So I think, there's some of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I noticed that sometimes they raise really way too small in multi-way pots. Like there'll be like 5 people in, and they'll do like a min raise or something like that. That is definitely a giveaway when they raise. I think that's probably the biggest thing now that you mention it, is they probably size too small in multi-way. They just make a same size raise, whether there's 8 people in or 5 people in or 1 person in. So yeah.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Oh, go ahead, please, Lori. Yeah, no.
I think my biggest thing that I noticed playing live, or that someone is new to playing live, I should say, is the fact that they're not familiar with the big blind ante. That's usually a very big giveaway for me, because it's been around now since 2018. I just encountered that actually on Friday at Orleans. 2 people at my table were not familiar with the big blind ante. So like I said, that definitely tells me not a lot of live playing experience. I know online they still do the antes and everything, but I'm not even sure that there is a live poker tournament anymore that doesn't have the big blind ante as part of its structure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Joe Coolis, you looked like you had something there. Did you want to ask a question?
So it just kind of occurred to me as you're talking. I'm confused as to what Kathy Liebert focuses in on when she plays, because you kind of said, well, GTO isn't kind of your interest, and you talked a little bit about some things that you're focusing on, in terms of what a new player is. It's like all of these things are things that we as rec poker players are saying, well, there has to be the route to find it. How did Kathy Liebert learn how to play poker, and what do you look for when you're playing that helps you make your decisions?
Yeah, I did read books when I was first starting out, and I did talk to a lot of other players, about strategy and about hands and things like that. But I've been playing for so long now that I basically just go by my gut. I don't really have a set strategy or a set, I just go and I play, and I kind of just go by feel, and whether that, sometimes, you do see that the younger player, you do see that certain players are playing a certain style, that may, and you kind of get a feel for how they're playing and you adjust accordingly. But I don't think that there's only one right way to play poker. And I do think that a lot of these newer players, they're kind of set in their ways. They don't really necessarily think about the particular situation or about the particular player they're up against. They just think that this is the way you play, which I don't think is right.
Well, it's an interesting concept because when you look at concepts of fluency in terms of how people play, I talk a lot about it. Is that with patients outside is that you have to take something and make it automatic, right? And what it sounds like to me, in that, and I've thought about this in terms of a lot of the older poker players. I don't mean to call you older, but older than me or older than, well, Rob, but that
Me. I don't think there's anybody older than me, Joe. That's right.
that they learn that there's the development of the skills over just mass practice, that they've kind of internalized a lot of the rules that GTO or that us rec players are trying to learn without having to put in all that time at the table, because we don't have the time to do that. And so I'm not asking you to have an answer to it. It's just, I find it fascinating that a lot of the players who came in from before the moneymaker boom often talk about it that way. It's just like, well, I just know how things are supposed to play. And I think that's that fluency of seeing things and knowing how people would react, even if you don't consciously really understand it. Does that make any sense? Does that sound?
Yeah, experience is definitely a factor in what you've seen and what you've experienced, and over time you've seen so many hands that you have a feel for, what kind of hands they have, or whether they're strong or not based on how they're playing their hands. But it is definitely, different these days, and the younger generation does play a much more varied approach and a much more aggressive approach. So you definitely have to adjust to that. And I would say that the people that don't study it, or kind of just the older players or whatever, I think their experience does pay off, but they might not be as used to how the new generation is playing. And that does take some time to adjust to.
Okay. Thank you.
So I was curious, Kathy. You mentioned that you don't travel a lot for poker anymore, but I was curious how much poker you do play. I mean, there's poker tournaments every day in Vegas somewhere. Do you have a buy-in that you're not comfortable playing, or a buy-in that you prefer playing? And do you still love the game like you did when you first started? That's always a good question.
Yeah, I still enjoy playing. I usually play when there's a big series like the Win Championship in December. I play that one, and I'll sometimes play. I don't play as much as I used to in terms of the regular tournament series, but I like to play the major tournaments at the Win. Occasionally, I'll play a Venetian series here and there, and I'll sometimes play online on WSOP. Especially during when they have like a bracelet series or something like that. So I don't usually play daily tournaments or anything like that, but there's always, like you said, there's always a series going on. But generally, I'll play the bigger series.
Oh, that's very cool. What do you do for other types of fun when you're not playing poker? You're in Vegas, so I mean, you got the world at your fingertips. So what do you do? What do you get into?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I spend a lot of time online. I still do a lot of stuff with the stock market and trading and stuff like that. With I like to study markets and invest. So I'll do that, and also I watch some YouTube videos and things like that, and it just depends. But I am trying to get a little bit more into the routine of doing some more walking and some exercising and things like that. I do have a pool. I like to go swimming and spend a little time outside when I can. So, but it depends. But I do still play online some, and definitely play the major series like the WSOP and the Win Championship.
Nice. We've got a bunch of questions here from the YouTube chat, so let's roll into some of these. This one is from Benny the Jet. It says, which is Kathy's favorite poker room / venue that you visited? So anywhere in the world, what's your favorite poker room to go play?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think in general, Florida is probably one of the best places to play. The Seminole Hard Rock in Florida. I wish that exact environment was here in Vegas, because it'd be a little bit easier to play it. But I like that. A lot of times the players on the East Coast do tend to be a little bit more fun and sociable than some of the regulars in Vegas. But the Win is a great place to play, and I used to like to play the Borgata, but that's not very convenient either. I don't like the weather there or the atmosphere there, but overall, there are good tournaments there as well. And I guess they started up again recently. They didn't have them for a while. I guess they're starting again now.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things about Florida. We've been talking about getting a RecPoker road trip down to Florida and another RecPoker road trip down to Texas one of these days. We got to wait for some more cold weather up here in Canada.
I hear Playgrounds in Montreal is really good. I haven't been there yet, but I hear that's a great one. I guess I should there at some point.
Yeah, you definitely should. As I tell all our guests who are considering visiting Canada, come in the summer. But yeah, you'll have a fantastic time. Playground's probably my favorite poker room. Honestly.
Yeah, I hear that's a good one. Texas is good too, huh? La Lodge is good. Is that where else are they having tournaments there?
Yeah, they got a few. We got a couple regulars keep harping on us to come on down there and have some fun. I mean, it's only a matter of time at this point. We'll go anywhere that the poker is good. That's one promise.
Yeah. Well, I know I saw you at the Win in December. Did you go? Yeah,
I did. I honestly had such a good time. I think, like you, I think the Win and the WPT series there is really top of the line. They do such a good job with every element of it. And yeah, it was fun. It was fun bumping into there. That was a good table I was at. The guy to my right, Paul. I never got his last name, but you guys seemed friendly as well. I could tell he was a solid player. He'd been playing for a while.
Yeah, he plays a lot online on WSOP. I think he had WSOP Player of the Year one year, a few years ago. He plays a lot of cash games. Yeah.
Yeah. He was still there when I busted, so that checks out. But it was nice of you too. It was nice to make your acquaintance in person down there. We actually have a question here from Benny the Jet again. Does Kathy play online at all? So do you dabble online, or is it strictly a live game for you?
No, I play on WSOP.com. During the series when they had the bracelet events, I was playing those. I played some ring events on there, and I still enjoy doing that. I started playing some of the mystery bounties. They're kind of fun. I didn't used to like the bounty tournaments, but now I've kind of enjoyed playing some of those.
I think that's a cool format, the mystery bounty. It's an interesting way of like adding some gamble to the game, if you know what I mean. It's like it's probably I don't. Do you think it's better or worse for recreational players to play in that kind of a format? Because I guess it's all on day 2 anyway, so you gotta have the chops to get through the field. But when you do, it kind of flattens out the pay structure a bit.
Yeah, it makes it that you can win money without having to win the tournament. I guess it's better for the gambler players, the people that are more active and that go after the chips and go after the pots. It's probably not as good for the tight solid players because just kind of surviving on a short stack doesn't get you any bounties, which so I guess you got to gamble a lot more if you're going to play a bounty tournament.
I like that. They're doing there's a 1-day mystery bounty at this Running Aces RecPoker Weekend of Running Aces series that we're doing this weekend. But I've never played in a 1-day mystery bounty, but I'm very excited to see how John Barrows puts that together. That's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it should be more fun. Should be more gambling.
Yeah, we're not averse to that. That's not a problem for us. We've got a couple questions here from great premium member Dana Craven. Wants to know about some of your philanthropic projects. I know you've been involved in the past, and I'm sure you have some plans for the future. But talk a little bit about sort of like giving back and what has been successful in that light for you.
Yeah, some of the charities you mentioned, Feeding America and food banks are a great way to contribute. I think Feeding America is one of the best charities because it gives provides food for people, and there's other ones also that are similar. I sometimes do stuff on Twitter where I try to help people that are struggling and stuff like that. But yeah, I think any charity is good, but I think Feeding America is probably one of the best ones, and one of my favorite ones to give to.
Yep, that's a great answer. And yeah, of course, we'd encourage everyone in our YouTube chat right now, just pull out your smartphone. If you're listening at home, just press pause on the podcast, pull out your smartphone, and just Google food banks near me. You'll find a series of organizations that could really use your help right now.
Yeah, you can donate money, but you can also donate if you have canned goods or other food or whatever that you're not you don't need or whatever that you're not that's a good way too. And there's obviously a lot of places you can donate clothes and things like that, like shelters. And there's in Vegas, and there's probably in the same in other locations. There's like trucks you can just drop off things anytime you don't need anything. There's a whole bunch of places you can just donate clothes or whatever you don't need or whatever you're not using to.
Yeah, and I think poker gets kind of a rap as being a selfish sport, like we're taking from each other at the tables. But I've been really impressed with how generous the poker community has been, and I think that despite a lot of like lone wolves at the table, like we are actually all on the same team, and we're all trying to make the world a better place, and supporting a local food bank is a great way to do that. So I'm glad that's something that we can work on together.
For sure.
Dana also wants to know, where does your competitive nature come from? Is it something that you brought into your life as a poker player, or is it something that poker evoked within you?
I always enjoyed games when I was a kid. I always enjoyed playing different games, Monopoly and poker and cards and different things. I think that I was probably more competitive when I was younger than I am now. Now that I've been around a long time, I probably am a little bit more casual and, try to enjoy it more instead of just there to win. I've gotten a little bit more relaxed, I guess, over the years. But yeah, I always enjoyed games, and I always wanted to win and succeed and make money. So I guess it was there from childhood, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like everyone, if you're raising kids, play games. Get those kids playing games. It's really good for their brain. It's good for their soul. Like, it's good for the way that they deal with other people. It's good for building, self-confidence and critical analysis. Yeah, play games. Play games with your kids. Get your kids to play games. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, if you're playing for money, they're more incentivized, I think.
Well, it's gotta hurt. This is the thing. I honestly do believe that like losing has to hurt, or else we don't really learn the lessons from it the same way. There's got to be like a negative association with it. Joe Coulis, you should probably speak to this.
Shouldn't hurt too much.
No, I'm not. We're going to go over a long ways, but
I don't want to play anymore. But.
I just didn't realize we moved down to Jim Reid's parenting advice.
yeah. We've always found a couple rabbit holes. Find a couple rabbit holes on the show. But yeah, so Joe's professionally, he's actually a clinical. I always screw this up. Neuropsychologist. He clinically, yes, nailed it. And so I'm always curious to know his take on things like the value and importance of like positive and negative reinforcement as part of a learning method. Can you speak to that briefly, Joe?
Briefly. Wow. Well, but I'm going to move back on and ignore the error of the positive versus negative reinforcement, because you got those wrong, but it's okay. Most people do. You have to watch my psyops in order to understand those two different concepts. But games, I think that sometimes games can be helpful. I think sometimes games need to be less structured. You need to let kids play games on their own, because then they can develop a lot of the critical thinking skills. You can put them into the initial structure, but then just let them play and let them work out the fights and the not fights. Like to your point of it's got to hurt. But really what's important is not that it's so structured that everybody follows the rules and just plays. It's like they start figuring out actually, I mean, this is a good point. It's like figuring out how to deal with conflict. And sometimes I think a lot of poker players at the table, particularly when they're dealing with women, don't actually know how to deal with the conflicts when it comes up in disappointment and other things. And to your point, would probably be better off if had spent more time actually playing and being allowed to kind of fight these things out. So they don't do it now when they're adults, when it has so many more negative consequences. So.
It's very cool. That's why I like having you on the show here, Joe. You're tapping into that fancy education of yours.
Plus, I have a fancy vest.
The vest is doing a lot of heavy lifting. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. Lorianne, you had another excellent question. What's on your mind?
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Kathy, given a choice, now this is excluding the WSOP main event, would you rather win another bracelet or have your name inscribed on the WPT Mike Sexton's Champions trophy?
Wow. I don't play as many WPTs as I used to, but I definitely winning a WPT would be awesome. Bracelet would be awesome also. I think WPT in general is more prestigious than the WSOP bracelet, but both would be good. I think there's a lot more WSOP events and a lot more bracelets these days than there are WPTs. So
definitely.
Good point. Good point. We've got a question here from Type Login, who I know I'm going to see this weekend. Looking forward to that. Should we add chess clocks to tournaments to prevent some stalling and to pick up this pace of the game a little?
I would like that. I like the idea, where you have a clock for the whole tournament, because some people only take a long time occasionally, and some people take a long time every single time, even when they don't have a real decision. So it'd be nice if it kind of could even out. I generally act pretty quickly. Occasionally I take quite a long time, And it's not fair that sometimes people take a long time every time, and then nobody calls the clock. And then the one time somebody has a decision, maybe they get the clock called on them when they're generally quick. So I think it'd be better if it was balanced, and it'd be better if the players didn't have to call the clock if it was a set amount of time. Obviously, some people don't like having the clock called on them, or they view it as an attack or something like that. So it really shouldn't be. Sometimes you call the clock, sometimes you don't. I've sat at a table where nobody called the clock for a really long time, and I've also seen it called very quickly. So yeah, a chess clock would be good, I think. So you can take some time when you need it, but you don't take excessive time all the time. That would be ideal.
I like that idea, and I know it's a subject of debate right now. We got another question from Dana. What's the craziest superstition you've seen at the poker table?
It seems like some players are superstitious that if you say nice hand or something like that, then they think they're going to lose. I've seen that even with Phil Ivey, where he'll have the best hand and someone will say nice hand and he'll get mad, like nice hand, and it seems to always happen. Somebody says nice hand or good hand, like you have aces and they have kings, and it seems like a lot of times they'll hit the king, when you say, I don't know why, but it is kind of crazy to think that saying nice hand or something like that or getting up from the table will affect the results. But I know people are superstitious when it comes to that stuff sometimes. I am a little bit too sometimes.
What are some of your superstitions? What are some of the things that you do that are kind of like, you might even feel silly while you're doing it, but you should probably do it because it works.
Yeah, I mean, the one I just mentioned, it does seem like sometimes it feels like when they say that you tend to lose more. So I don't like that either. When they, nice hand, it seems like, don't say that until the hand's over, because it does seem like a lot of times you get beat when they say that. But of course, that's pretty silly. But yeah, wait till the hand is over before you say nice hand.
That's a good one. I like
the prepay, the infamous prepay. Where they put
counting them out. Yeah.
I'll admit,
before the river.
I did that yesterday. I was like, no, just there's still the 5 cards to come. Don't prepay yet. So I admit I'm guilty of that.
And the standing up. I do think the standing up is a real one for sure. That definitely.
Oh, no. My motto is my butt doesn't get out of the chair until the 5th card. No, I actually don't stand up. I refuse to stand up.
The power move is to order a cocktail and then go all in, and then just let everyone know you're going to be there for a while. That's the one that I like. Yeah. Oh yeah. They order the cocktail and say, "You just take your time bringing that back. I'll be here later." then go all in. It's a good one. We've got another question from Benny the Jet here. Is that if you had to start all over from a learning poker point of view, where would you start? It's a very open-ended question, but look, where would you recommend someone today learning poker? Where would you recommend they start?
I'm not sure because I've been playing for so long, but I know there are a lot of information on YouTube that's free that you can start there. Obviously there's tons of videos and there's tons of books and there's just so much information out there. I'm not really sure what the best one is, but if you're just starting out, just watching videos, either watching the final tables of the tournaments or watching these instructional videos on YouTube. And there's just so many resources out there. I don't know. There's probably dozens and dozens of training online that you can get just for free. And then of course, if you want to get more experience, there's a lot of paid training courses as well. But I'd probably start with the free ones.
Mm-hmm. I've got a couple more questions here, and then we're going to wrap this up. I just wanted to, this has been such a fun interview already, Kathy. Thank you so much for this. What's one of your own kind of worst poker memories, whether it's something that you're embarrassed about or something that, you made a mistake that you feel bad about, or something that's just, you did everything right, but it just hurts so much. Like when you think of like bad poker memories, is there one that jumps out at you?
I'm sure there's a bunch, but I was at the WPT final table, 3-handed, and I had the best hand, and the flop came very good for me. I think I had ace king versus ace queen, and a king came on the flop, and people were like cheering and high-fiving and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, it's not over, but I was kind of excited and happy about it. And then it came runner, and I lost, and I wound up coming in second in that one. Whereas if I'd won that pot, I think I would have had 80 or 90% of the chips in play and would have been heads up. So that was definitely a painful one that I remember. But we all make mistakes at the poker table, and sometimes it is embarrassing when you make a bad call or a bad bet or a bad raise, but it happens to everybody. And shouldn't be embarrassed, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it is embarrassing, but it happens to everybody. But I think for me, sometimes I act a little bit too quickly. So although I don't in general think it's good to take a long time, install or anything like that, I think the way the kids do it and they take a little bit of time on every decision, I actually think that does make sense, and it does give away less information if you take a little bit of time before acting. Where sometimes I'm so used to playing that I'll make a very quick decision or a very fast or impulsive play without necessarily thinking it through. So that's usually not a good result when you do that.
That's a great answer. I know Rob Washam talks about this all the time in our book study when we're talking about hand history. He always says, just take your hand off the mouse and just think about all your actions. Take a deep breath. Even if you think it's a automatic thing that you're doing, still just take that breath and just consider, are there other things that I could be doing here? I'm so glad to hear that, Kathy, because we speak to players of your experience and caliber. And I think for a lot of us on the recreational side, we kind of think of you all as being these mistake-free, regret-free, perfect poker players all the time. And it's great to kind of hear that you're also making some of these same mistakes that we're making at the tables. And I think that kind of helps make it all feel very real for us.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like taking time is a sign of weakness, and sometimes you don't, so you maybe make a faster decision because you don't want to look weak. But if you take a little bit of time, whether you're strong or weak, then it's not a sign of weakness, But if you only take time when you're uncertain, then that can be a sign of weakness. So, I sometimes try, and I have a lot of experience. So a lot of times I go with my first instinct. But yeah, I think taking a little bit of time, whether you have a great hand or not a great hand, it makes sense, rather than just acting quickly.
I like that. All right, last question from the YouTube chat. We're going back to Dana here. It's a good segue, actually. So when we do find ourselves at a table with people who are actually tanking or chronically tanking every time, every hand, every decision, what's the correct way of dealing with it once their habit has been established? So once we're no longer unsure, are they just facing, 3 tough hands in a row? Do we say something to them? Do we say something to the dealer? Do we call the floor? Do we just start acting grumpy? What's the best strategy when someone's at the table and we feel like they're abusing their ability to take time?
I mean, unfortunately, there's not much you can do. There's not really a strategy, I mean, if you say something, you might be causing a problem or a fight, or it might tilt you, or they might say something back to, so there's not really a good way to handle it. I mean, you can call the clock if they're taking an excessive amount of time every time, but a lot of the players these days, it's not really, it's not really that excessive. I mean, they might take 20 seconds every single time, which you think is not necessary, especially if they have a bad hand or whatever, or before the flop, or, something. Sometimes it does feel like they're taking longer than they should on something that shouldn't take very long. But what can you do about it? You can't, the dealer can't do anything. You can't do anything about it, really, and if you act grumpy or upset about it, that's not going to help you either. So I don't, there's not really a good answer for that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, maybe getting those time clocks in, those chess clocks kind of make that problem go away on the front end. There's got to be a solution.
Yeah, I know in the high rollers, a lot of times they do have the time chips where after 20 seconds they put the time chip in, and I don't think that's a bad way to go either. But
why do we think those are not more prevalent in lower stakes events? I assume that the placards themselves aren't prohibitively expensive to manufacture and distribute. So what is the reason why?
I guess they figure that some of the recreationals, the lower stakes players, don't want them, maybe, or they don't think that they, But I think I don't think that's true. I think that probably, even in low stakes and recreationals, probably don't like the people tanking or taking too long. So 20 seconds before we have to put a time chip in, I think that makes sense. You can give them 10 chips. You can give them 10 time chips. Usually it's plenty. However many they give you, whether it's 6 or 8 or 10, usually it's more than enough. And there was a couple guys I know that were chronically taking a very long time, and it did annoy people. In fact, one of them got barred. Jordan Christos was always taking a long time and annoyed people, and they actually barred him from the win. So I'm not sure if that's
there. You go.
Yeah. But it is annoying when people take a long time. But I don't, besides calling the clock, there's really not, you can't, saying anything to them is probably not going to help the situation unless they're, I mean, some people might be nice and try to take a shorter amount of time, but I don't think it generally solved anything by saying something to the player or to the dealer.
And I guess the person who's doing it maliciously isn't going to care whether you like it or not. So it's not really like if they're making an honest mistake of taking too long, then yeah, bringing it to their attention politely could be effective. But
most people don't like it when you say something to them. I've noticed, if you say something, usually, in fact, I've seen people, and occasionally I've done it myself, where if you call a clock, if they don't think it's warranted or whatever, they might take longer, just to
out of like spite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that too. All right, well, we're gonna have our food bank raffle giveaway at the end of the show. So this is your last chance, folks. If you want to type the words food bank into the YouTube chat, then you'll automatically be entered into our raffle. Rob Washam, you are in charge of all the fantastic prizes that we give away on the show here. Why don't you tell our audience what they might win if they win the YouTube raffle?
Well, this week, you will get a free month of RecPoker Premium. And if you're already a premium member, you can choose from one of our learning partners. And as an aside, I want to remind everybody that Club WPT Gold is now live for all of you that signed up through the RecPoker promotion. And you can still sign up now and be eligible to play in Club WPT Gold. They have ring games, they have tournaments. It's available in all of the U.S. states other than Idaho, Michigan, Montana, and Washington. And unfortunately, it's not available in Canada yet, Jim. So I'm sorry about that.
I know you can still sign up. You can sign up now because they're going to make it available here in their beta phase, which is in the next couple of months. So I am pretty excited about that.
Sometime soon it should be available in Canada. So you can sign up now using the promo code RECP and have access to play the games and the tournaments. And each day that you log in, and I've discovered this myself accidentally because I log in every day, they give you free coins to play. So it's kind of, you don't even have to deposit. It's really a lot of fun, and you can get some experience playing their software, see what it's all about as they go further and further along with this process. So join Club WPT Gold.
There you go. So yeah, thanks, Rob. And folks, if you haven't yet signed up, I encourage you to do it using code RECP, RecP for RecPoker. That helps us out a lot. And I can't wait till they start letting us Canuckians in, because I want to play with more of you Yankees. I want it. Get me into that player pool, man. Bring it. I want those American dollars. That's what I want. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's get that going. And yeah, so folks, last chance. If you just type the words food bank into the YouTube chat, then you'll get entered into our raffle prize. And we've got a super chat from Benny the Jet. Thank you so much, Benny. That's so sweet. So thank you for including us in this support, and we're going to share a portion of this with a local food bank. So merci beaucoup, mon frère. I know where Benny's from, and I appreciate that support and that support of a local food bank as well. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we are going to play Stake, Study, Stack. Kathy, this is one of my favorite games. So I don't know if you played this when you were younger. You might have played a game called Kiss, Marry, Kill. We're going to give you 3 names, and you have to choose one to stake in a poker tournament or a cash game, one to study with to help you improve as a player, and one that you'd like nothing more than to just stack them and steal all their chips at the table. Okay? So this is Stake, Study, Stack with Kathy Liebert. Kathy, your 3 names are Ted Forrest, Vanessa Selbst, and Scott Seiver. Stake, study, and stack. Who's it going to be?
Vanessa Selbst, Scott Seiver, and Ted Forrest. I'll study with Vanessa Selbst. I'll stack Scott Seiver, and I'll stake Ted Forrest.
There you go. Fantastic.
Solid.
Yep. And now we're going to play our final game here. It's called Closing the Action. So this is a fun one. We're going to just throw a bunch of rapid fire questions at you, mostly to do with poker. And I just am hoping that you are going to give us quick, fast answers. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. It has to be true, but you can say pass. So we're not going to put you in a really uncomfortable position. But we're going to go into some weird places here. I'm going to get inside that brain of yours, Kathy. I'm very excited for this. Are you ready? Are you prepared?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll try.
Okay. We're gonna find out. Here it goes. Closing the action with Kathy Liebert. All right, the first one's an easy one, Kathy. What is your favorite poker hand?
Aces.
Good answer. Is poker a gamble or a skill game?
Both.
What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
Pass.
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
Yeah.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
No.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
What about a taco? Is a taco a sandwich?
No.
No. What's one thing you're afraid of?
I don't know. Can't think of anything.
Amazing. I want your life. That's fantastic. Should vacations be lazy or busy?
Lazy for me, I think.
I'm with you. Is a royal flush a straight flush?
Yeah.
Do you have pineapple on pizza? Yes or no? Should it
No.
ever be done?
Not
No?
for me.
Yellow light coming up. Slow down or speed up?
Slow down. Yellow means
now
go
we're
very
going back.
fast.
Yeah, that's right. Either one. We're going way back. Back when you were a kid, what was your favorite family holiday meal?
Lobster.
Oh, good one. What was the holiday? What was the holiday that you guys had lobster for?
I mean, sometimes we'd have it at Christmas.
Nice. A Christmas lobster. Very cool. All right, back to poker tournaments. It's getting to the end of the day. Are you pro chop or no chop?
It depends. I can go either way.
Mm-hmm. I'm putting you on the spot. You got to pick one.
I would say no.
And name a musical artist who you really enjoy.
I used to love Charlie Daniels when I was a kid.
Nice. All right, there you go. What's one physical object that you cannot live without?
Phone.
Yep. That a very popular answer these days. I should start excluding that as one of the possible answers. All right. And who is your poker nemesis, Kathy Liebert?
Wow, I don't know.
There we go.
That was so loud.
That's the first buzzer. There you got the buzzer.
Kathy, Kathy, I have a quick question. Not to interrupt Jim's. I'll let him calculate out his points and so on.
Yeah.
You grew up in Tennessee, right?
No, I was born there. I didn't grow up there.
Oh, so where did you get lobster at Christmas time? Because that's
We moved to New York, so my
Oh, okay.
my life. At first, I wouldn't try lobster. My mom had to convince me to try it, and after that, I wanted it all the time. So she would get it for me as a special treat, like sometimes for my birthday, or sometimes at Christmas. At Thanksgiving we usually had turkey, but I would always want lobster anytime I could get it.
Yeah, just not Tennessee lobster.
Yes.
Stay away from the Tennessee lobster.
Yeah. New York makes way more sense now. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That checks out.
Kind of a bad deed for Chris Moneymaker that I was #1 for so long in Tennessee, because really I'm not from Tennessee, but he finally passed me anyway, so it's okay.
I love it. So I'm just doing some quick math here on the speed round answers. There, I've got you at let me see, 814 points. That's an excellent score. Congratulations, Kathy. That's a lot of people don't get up to 800. Being over 800 puts you in very rarefied air.
Some of them were tough questions. I would have to think about them a little more, I guess.
Yeah, that's why we make it. That's why we make it the speed round. Make it tough. Make it tough.
It was the lobster that did it.
Yeah, that was.
That put her over.
Kathy, last question. We don't ask this as part of the speed round because I want you to take your time. What's one thing that the poker world can do differently? What's one thing the poker world should be doing differently today? Just one thing that the poker world needs to improve.
I mean, I'd like to see it be a little bit more friendly and open and and more inviting to players. You know, you know, you don't have to always be in serious mode. You can be friendly and talkative and say hello to people and just be a little bit nicer and just not make them feel badly if they make a mistake or if they're beginners or something like that. I think that it tends to be a bit mixed. In the bigger buy-ins, it tends to be more serious. But even in the smaller buy-ins these days, I've noticed that people don't say hello when you sit down or something like that. There's nothing wrong with just being a little bit nicer to people and just saying hello and how you doing or something. It doesn't have to be anything long and distracting or anything like that, but just a little bit friendlier, I think.
Yeah, a great answer. And I think that, that could even apply off the felt. I think we could all just do a better job of being friendlier and nicer wherever the heck we are, but particularly at the tables. Thanks, Kathy. That's a great answer. Well, I've really enjoyed the hell out of this interview. If folks want to get more Kathy Liebert in their lives, how can they get in touch with you? Can they follow you on social media? Is there a place that you go every Friday for lunch? Do you have a newsletter or something like that? How would you like our audience to say thanks for coming on the show? And
no stalking Kathy during lunch. Okay, let's not do that.
It's sensitivity training for Jim again.
You did not hear that here.
I'm on X sometimes. I'm not on X as much as I used to be. I've kind of cut back on that, but I guess that's the easiest place to reach me on PokerCat, POKERKAT on X. But I'm not doing a lot of social media stuff in general.
Yeah, that's probably wise. I'm kind of curbing myself down off socials a bit as well over the last little while. But yeah, I'll make sure PokerCat on Twitter. I'll make sure that link is in the show notes so folks can follow along. Kathy, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the Rec Poker podcast. I know, and you kind of took a leap of faith on us to just come and share this time and these stories with us. So I appreciate that very much. I want to wish you continued success on the felt and in your philanthropic efforts. And I hope we get to spend some more time together in person down the road a little bit. I'd welcome that.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Kathy Liebert there. Everyone, thanks for a fantastic interview. Kathy, we're going to roll on into some home game results, give away some prizes, and talk about some cool upcoming events. That was a treat. We were talking earlier about the rec poker, the poker industry and the poker community being generous and kind and thoughtful. And, Kathy, we have no connection. We're not like friends. We just followed each other on Twitter. It seemed like we were supporting a lot of the same things. And so I just reached out and said, we'd love to have you on the show and share your story with some of our members. And she was very receptive. And I am so impressed with all these wonderful folks in the poker world and how generous they are with their time and their expertise. And it's a wonderful thing to see. So, yeah, that's cool. She's been on my list to have her on the show for a long time. Any surprises from our panel, from some of the answers? Any answers that you particularly liked or that threw you for a loop? I like that Lorianne came in here with the research. Yeah, the lobster.
Lobster. But
lobster for Christmas.
Die Hard is still a Christmas movie. That is one of the I will die on. No pun intended. I will die hard on that hill.
I like that. Yeah, Rob.
I think one thing I thought of was, she's been so successful in her poker career, and she hasn't bought into the GTO thing, and she plays by feel. She plays by how she feels. And I think a lot of people can take something from that, because it is really, you're not playing against the deck. You're playing against that person sitting across from you. And if you don't understand how to get into his head or her head, then you're not going to be successful. And I think that's what she's been able to do.
Well, I think that it was interesting to hear her talk about that, because I think she's probably playing GTO concepts, right, without actually realizing that in a manifest manner that she is playing GTO constructs. I mean, it's just like, people know to bet more on aces, right, as one example. And developing your poker knowledge skills is just continuing to winnow away at the more and more difficult decisions, one after the other, until all of those become automatic. Like Andrew Brokus once, I asked a question of how do I know, since there's so much variance in poker, and he's like, well, your decisions get easier. And that's because you're just much more certain that a particular set of decisions are the correct way to go. And you don't necessarily have to cognitively think it through. It just becomes automatic, and you can move on to the next set of decisions. And that's how you can see that you're improving. And I think that if I had to guess, that's what Kathy has done over time, and internalized the GTO constructs without actually ever opening up a solver and trying to figure that out from there.
Yeah, well, there's no substitute for experience, right? Especially when it comes to this process of reading other players and getting that kind of feedback. I think that's one of the things that's very interesting about poker, because it does take that theoretical underpinning of a successful game, but so much of it is determined by the action at the table, the players at the table, the assumptions you make about them. It's fascinating.
Well, I'm just going to push back a little bit on you, Jim, because I think that it gives the Rec Poker audience kind of a foyer into what really is one of the biggest questions and why GTO is so problematic for so many players is people who follow GTO are essentially trying to get there without the experience. They're trying to circumvent the years that people play by utilizing the computer to do the experience for them and to help explain the theoretical underpinnings, so you don't have to actually experience that in order to learn the game. And that's sometimes I think that's the tension. It's like people coming in from different ways where you haven't put in your time, and I put in my time at all this table, and I learned that, so I know it better than you. The hoodie guys are coming in and say, I don't need to do that. I can simply look at this printout, start to internalize it in a much more rote fashion, and then I can beat you at the table. So it's just from a generational conflict. It's an interesting question.
Yeah. Oh, it was a very, very cool interview. I've been looking forward to that one for a while. It was great to get inside the head on some of that stuff. So I just want to shout out our YouTube chatters. There's a really fun conversation going on in the YouTube chat. Yeah, a lot of people struck by the lobster for Christmas. That does sound like a fantastic idea. When I was going to school on the East Coast for several years, lobster is just available out there in Halifax and Nova Scotia, and so it is a little more accessible. It's not just for special occasions. And there's nothing, it still feels very fancy to me, especially when you make it at home.
Well, back in the 1920s, there was a revolt from prisoners on the East Coast that they were being fed lobster too often.
Yes.
This is back before it became considered a luxury item.
Yeah.
So times have changed.
Are you messing
That's
with us?
because
Is
it's
that
like
true?
chewing on. No, it's true because it's like chewing on gristly chicken.
Oh yeah,
it's terrible.
You've eaten the wrong kind of lobster, my friend. Come on,
Yeah, I
East
think
Coast,
so.
we'll take it.
I think so.
Yes,
But it is true because it's so ample, it's so available there that it's so cheap and easy. I mean, again, going back before it was more scarce. And it's just like, when I lived in Halifax, I'm involved in home renovations for my day job and new home construction. And when we were doing some handyman work out there, we'd be taking like a bathroom apart, opening up the wall to get at something. And you would realize that what they were using for insulation was seaweed, because that's what's available. That's what's cheap. When you're building houses in the prairies, you know what they use for insulation? Straw, because it's there. And so, it's human nature. What there's a lot of, that we use a lot of. And so I remember these stories about people's like grandparents getting complaints from their kids because the poor kids were getting lobster in their lunch box at lunchtime. And, the more well-off kids would get like sandwiches, which, as we all know, is the real pinnacle of food in a lot of ways. So just bringing that full circle there in case anyone was asleep at the switch. So yeah, so thanks to all our YouTube chatters for some really fun stuff in there. Joe Coolis, it was basically all you, ran a Rec Poker charity auction over the end of 2024, and we finally got a chance to share some of the results from that with our audience here. Why don't you just take a minute or two and talk about what that experience was like and how we were able to help out some local food banks. Oh, Joe, can you hear us?
Sure. No, I mean, I really have to say, can you hear me? I'm wondering if my internet is.
Nope, loud and
Can you hear
clear.
me now? Fine.
Gotcha. Yep.
I can't really take all the credit for it. I mean, I did run some things in the background, but what I really, it was the people, the poker players themselves who donated so much of their time and so much of their kind of some pretty cool memorabilia that really made it go. I can probably say that we did make $2,000 for food banks, which I thought. What we can say is that I donated to 4 different groups, or RecPoker donated to 4 different groups. We donated to Second Harvest in Las Vegas, Northumberland Fair Food Bank. Did I get that right, Jim?
Nailed it. That was it.
As the 3rd in Canada, and then we donated to the Food Bank for New York City. Each of those received a $500 donation, so we were able to spread the money that people so generously donated around. And if you were here for our discussion with, and I'm blanking on her name, Jim, help me out, from Las Vegas, the Las Vegas philanthropist.
Lupe Soto was a guest recently.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
$500 is a lot of money and can buy a lot of meals for people over time. So thank you so much for the generosity that everybody showed, and know that we helped out a lot of people.
Yeah, it was great. So thanks to all the folks that contributed either items or their coaching time or that sort of thing to raise $2,000 to spread that out over 4 food banks was really great. And yeah, my hat's off to Joe Coolis for putting that all together. And yeah, like we say, the Second Harvest Foodland, Second Harvest Heartland Food Bank in Minnesota, in my own home town here of Cobourg, Ontario, the Northumberland Fair Share Food Bank, Poker Gives in Las Vegas. And Joe, I'm sorry I skipped the New York one, but that's a wonderful way to help spread the holiday cheer. So. Yeah. So, and thanks to everyone who participated in that as well and bid on some items and got some really cool poker stuff for the holidays and helped a local food bank as well. That's great. All right. We're going to give away a fantastic prize here. First, John Somsky, why don't you share some recent home game winners and who won the Learn Pro Poker home game on Sunday, because they've won a fantastic prize themselves.
Well, JS Raider 77014 won his or her first nightly victory for the year. Don't Chase 666. Joseph Armstrong got his first nightly victory.
Nice.
MCF.Jack got his or her first nightly victory. JD Cat Jeff Catalano got his first nightly victory for the year.
Nice,
Isma got his or her first nightly victory for the year.
Still doing it. Love it.
One Jack Flack Brett got his first nightly victory for the year. Bone Crusher 14 Marcel Dusick got his first daily mixed practice event victory for the year. Jay Sedham Jeff S got his first international victory for the year. And Dandy Res G Daniel A got his first international victory for the year. And then to add another victory for the week, Jay Sedham, Jeff S. won the LPP event, so he can contact info@rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
That is amazing. So cool. So Marcel Dusick continues to be on a roll. I think he won the Player of the Year 2 years in a row now, which is fantastic, and still on a roll in the home game club. And nice to go, Jeff, getting multiple wins in there. And yeah, if you win on Sunday, the home games are free to play. It's play money. Doesn't cost you a cent to get involved, but the prizes are real. It's not just pins. The Sunday home game is sponsored by Learn Pro Poker, and whoever wins can send an email to info@rec.poker, and they have won a free month at Learn Pro Poker. So I hope that they do, and they're really going to enjoy that and get a lot out of it. All right, before we give away our food bank raffle winner, I just want to again remind folks that it is this weekend, RecPoker weekend at Running Aces. If you're listening to this live, it's not too late to book a couple nights at the fantastic new hotel they've built there at Running Aces. And if you're listening to this when it comes out on Friday morning, get in the car, fool, start driving. get yourself up to Running Aces. You can probably still make the start of the one-day mystery bounty on Friday that I'm really looking forward to. So that's just going to be a ton of fun. And of course, they have a bunch of other great events at Running Aces over the next couple months. But if you can only go once in the next little while, boy, I'd say go this weekend and let's meet up and have a sandwich or a beer or something. I think we could have a pretty good time. All right.
Jim?
Rob Gardner. Yes, sir.
Quick question. If they're driving on the way there and it's a yellow light, should they slow down or speed up? Which one?
I mean, I'll just tell you, unless I'm driving with what I'd term like precious cargo, like small young family members of mine that I've been entrusted with, I'm speeding up. But
okay.
But you know, if there's people that aren't me in the car, I probably just slow down. That's just me.
So you don't care about the other people in the other cars. It's just the people that might be in your car that you're concerned
Correct.
with. Okay.
Hey,
Yes,
Rob.
apparently.
That's true.
Rob, can you do us all a favor and please put a disclaimer at the bottom of this that opinions expressed by Jim do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the
It's okay, everybody. I'm driving Jim this weekend, not the other way around.
Oh, okay. That's actually true. That's actually true. Rob's picking me up at the airport. So we're going to find out. I'll be recording the entire drive from the airport to Running Aces just in case we hit a yellow light. I want incontrovertible evidence as to what Gardner's up to for that. Yeah, thanks guys. All right, Rob Gardner, you've got the spinning wheel of fame and fortune. Who is our winner? Who has won a fantastic prize simply by typing the words food bank into the YouTube chat? Coming along. Oh, Gibber.
Hey,
that's my buddy.
Gibber.
My buddy Jim Gibson. Congratulations. Oh yeah, yeah, of course, Joseph. These are Purdue guys. They got
the real
Purdue.
Jim.
Hail Purdue.
The real Jim.
The real Jim.
That's right. Jim Gibson. I think we might see him. Might see him this weekend. You never know. It's not exactly in his backyard, but we'll just see. That's going to be super fun. Congratulations, Jim. Send that email to info@rec.poker, and we'll get you all hooked up with the prize of your dreams, I'm sure. All right. Well, let's wrap this puppy up. If you're watching this live, if you're a premium member, I really encourage you at 9:00 Eastern in 8 minutes. We're starting Mark Zhang's office hours. Mark Zhang has been a RECing Crew member since last year. He's a very accomplished online pro, has won many six-figure scores, loves working with recreational players, and once a month, he hosts this office hours session. Very intelligent, very savvy, very skilled poker player, and actually very good at distilling the concepts into recreational players' terms. So I know I never miss a monthly session from Mark Zhang, and he's now doing them on the fourth Monday of the month at 9:00 right after the podcast. So I'd encourage everyone, if you're listening live, go and check that out. Yeah, and I'm seeing in the YouTube chat, that's right, Gibber, he will be there. So that's fantastic and exciting. Got a whole bunch of really, really fun messages in the YouTube chat. So thanks to them for everything that we got going on here. All right, gang, let's do it. We did it. We got Kathy Liebert. Thank you to Kathy Liebert. Thank you to the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. You can find out more about them at runaces.com. Thanks to Rob Washam, Lorianne Persinger, Joseph Koulis, John Somsky, invisible producer Rob Gardner, everyone in the YouTube chat, our audience, and everyone listening at home. We couldn't do it without you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on the RecPoker Podcast. Goodbye.
Peace.